Welcome back to another episode of Ask DN Windows, where I answer your questions about Microsoft and Windows related products. This week I'm going to talk about the Groove Music Pass coming to an end and whether or not their Cortana speaker is still on track for a release. Stay tuned. How similar or different is the Cortana experience on Android compared to Windows 10 Mobile? Can I still call Cortana to set a reminder or text message? So if you're looking to switch from Windows 10 Mobile to either Android or iOS, you may have questions about how Microsoft services work across those devices, Cortana being one of them. Now, if you have to choose between Android and iOS, of course, Android is going to be a much better choice. For instance, Android allows you to set things like the home launcher or reassign the search to Cortana. So to answer your question, yes, in fact, on my OnePlus 5, I can assign Cortana to the long press home button. And when I hit it, it's going to launch the little Cortana voice action, and I can tell it to do things like send a text message to my best friends, and it will complete that task for me. Now, for the rest of the feature set, yeah, it's very similar to Windows 10 Mobile. In fact, in some ways, it may even be better. You can definitely set reminders, and it'll sync your notebook across all your devices. It's actually a very good experience. I don't really love the look of the Android version or Cortana, but overall, the experience is very good. So if you're looking to switch to Android, I'd say Cortana will work very well and be a great substitute. What are your thoughts regarding the latest move by Microsoft in choosing Spotify over their own service, Groove Music? Microsoft recently announced that the Groove Music streaming service and pass was coming to an end on December 31st, 2017, and that obviously has a lot of people upset. Now, there are two ways I can answer this question. As a personal consumer who loves Groove, I'm very upset by the decision. I've been using music streaming service from Microsoft for a very long time, and I think this sends the wrong message to its audience. Now, from a business perspective, I think this was actually a smart decision. Music streaming is a very competitive business. In fact, Spotify, one of the largest streaming services in the world, barely turned to profit, if at all, even in 2017. That's because every time they move into a new country, they have to pay out the royalties for the entire library, and it's very expensive. The idea is that they hope to recoup that cost later on, but that does not always happen. So Microsoft was putting out a lot of money for the pass. Don't forget, you paid $10 a month and you licensed the entire library. That's a very expensive system to maintain, especially when it's super competitive. You have Pandora, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, and of course, Google's own music service. So I think this was a smart decision. They were basically losing services compared to Spotify. Spotify is very popular with the youth. People under 30 just use Spotify, and it was a smart decision, I think, to go with them. Of course, none of this really excuses Microsoft, who I think had plenty of chances to establish themselves in the music streaming business, but they kept resetting the system over and over again, whether it was Zune Music or going back to MSN Music, and then eventually Xbox Music and of course Groove. So the blame ultimately lays at their feet. It was a smart business decision to make in the end, even though as a consumer I'm quite unhappy about it. Can devices running Windows 10 on ARM using Qualcomm mobile processors in the future would also have enough mojo to run Windows Mixed Reality? So starting with the Windows 10 Fall Creators update rolling out in October, Windows Mixed Reality is going to become itself a reality for a lot of people. Now, you only need a dual-core Ultrabook to get started, and you'll hit 60 frames per second. It's a pretty good experience, but not fantastic. If you want more power, throw in a discrete graphics card like from NVIDIA, and you can go up to 90 frames per second, and that's really the ideal. So the question is, can you do all this on a ARM processor found in your phone, and eventually what we'll see in these new Windows 10 ARM devices? So the answer to that is no. Now, Qualcomm is making a lot of progress with its ARM processor, and Snapdragon 835 is quite powerful, but we're just not there yet. However, I would say give it 2 to 3 years, and yeah, it's going to be a possibility. Throw in the fact that Microsoft is going to improve its software so it can run on even lower end hardware and run more efficiently. And then you toss in something like cloud computing. I think you do have the ability here to eventually see Windows Mixed Reality on lower tier devices and eventually something that fits in your pocket. Will the Cortana speaker be canceled after ditching Groove? So this question is regarding the Harman Kardon Invoke speaker, which is due, I believe, in later October, maybe early November. As far as I know, this is still on track to come out. It is true, however, that Groove was included as a featured service of this device, and as far as I know, it is no longer even a part of it. Instead, you'll be able to use Spotify, specifically a Spotify premium account. That is already a part of it and will be there on day one. There's also iHeartRadio integration, and a few other services will be coming down the road as well. Don't forget, you'll also be able to do smart home things like Philip Hue as well as Nest. So this service will be growing across the Invoke speaker. Now the real question for me is this any different than what Amazon is doing or Google? And to that, I haven't really seen much to suggest it is. Yeah, you'll be able to do Skype calls, but is that really a killer feature? Probably not. It's still a very nice speaker and the audio is fantastic. So we'll see if it still comes out. As far as I know though, it's still on track for a release later this fall. So that does it for this episode of Ask Dan. Now if you have a question, use hashtag AskDanWindows on Twitter or go to windowscentral.com into our forums so you can ask a question there. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. Oh, that looks really weird. Oh, weird. No, just how this says HDR for the front-facing camera. Okay.